I once made the terrible decision to drink an entire shot glass of chili sauce during a night out, and let me tell you, the next morning was not a morning. It was a punishment. The kind of punishment that makes you sit there sweating, regretting every choice that led you to that exact moment, and quietly begging the universe for mercy. But somehow, against all logic, that experience was still more entertaining than watching Supergirl. This movie has attitude, noise, and style on the surface, yet it often feels like it is flying on autopilot. The biggest problem is not Milly Alcock. In fact, she may be the strongest reason to stay interested in this version of Kara. Since House of the Dragon, Alcock has had the kind of screen presence that makes silence feel charged. As Supergirl, she brings a punk edge, wounded attitude, and messy survival instinct that fit Kara better than a clean hero introduction. This Kara is not Clark Kent with a different cape. She did not grow up protected by loving parents in Kansas. She watched her world die and now drifts through space trying to numb the pain. That idea is powerful. It gives Kara a completely different emotional foundation from Superman. Clark sees the best in people because he was raised with love. Kara sees the damage first because loss shaped her before hope ever had a chance. When the movie touches that difference, especially in flashbacks to Argo City, it briefly becomes the film it should have been. Those scenes have scale, sadness, and purpose. They make me wish the movie had trusted Kara's origin more instead of racing into a scattered cosmic chase. The story follows Kara after she reconnects with Clark, but instead of staying on Earth, she wanders through red sun worlds where her powers are weakened and her grief is easier to hide. On one of those planets, she crosses paths with Rutheye, a young girl hunting Krem, the outlaw who murdered her family. Kara does not want to get involved. She is too tired, too drunk, and too closed off to become anyone's mentor. But when Krem steals her ship and poisons Crypto, the mission becomes personal. That setup has a strong engine. You have a damaged hero, a girl consumed by revenge, a ticking clock to save Crypto, and a villain who should force Kara to confront herself. The movie should move like a blade. Instead, it often drifts from planet to planet without building much tension. There are strange bars, rough alien towns, space pirates, wormhole travel, drone fights, and creatures that feel left over from a cantina scene. Some of that should be fun, but the film rarely gives these stops enough personality or emotional weight, and that is where the James Gunn comparison becomes impossible to avoid. This movie clearly wants that Guardians of the Galaxy and Peacemaker flavor, needle drop music, sarcasm, damaged outsiders, weird aliens, and jokes next to violence. But the imitation is thin. Gunn's best work does not succeed because someone plays a cool song during a fight. It works because the chaos is built around broken characters who need connection. Here, the soundtrack choices and smirks are present, but the heart is inconsistent. You can feel the movie trying to be rebellious, but rebellion without emotional control just becomes noise. The action is another issue. Supergirl is one of DC's most powerful characters, but the film holds back her full abilities until very late. That can work if the restraint creates suspense, but here it mostly makes the movie feel smaller than it should. When Kara finally steps into the full Supergirl image, the moment should explode. Instead, one major fight is undercut by a music choice that feels less like personality and more like someone trying way too hard to copy a formula. I know some fans may love that swing, so I'm curious where people land, because for me it pulled the scene in the wrong direction. Jason Momoa's Lobo is one of the film's brighter sparks. He looks like a heavy metal fever dream, chews on his cigar, rides his flying bike, and brings exactly the kind of bad boy energy the movie needs. The problem is that he is not used enough. Every time Lobo appears, the film wakes up for a moment, then quickly moves away from him. Momoa understands the assignment so clearly that it becomes frustrating. The movie does not give him more room to cause trouble. Matthias Schoenaerts as Krem has the opposite issue. Visually, he has a strong presence with his piercings, harsh look, and outlaw menace, but the character is not complex enough to be memorable. He is cruel, violent, and dangerous, but he often feels like a threat designed more than a fully shaped villain. For a story about revenge and trauma, the The villain needs more than an intimidating face. He needs to challenge Kara's soul, not just her fists. Rethai also should have been the emotional key to the movie. Her rage mirrors Kara's pain, and their journey could have shown to broken people choosing whether to be consumed by loss or changed by it. But the relationship does not hit as hard as it should. There are moments where the mentor dynamic almost works, yet the film keeps moving before the emotional connection can deepen. That is the problem. The pieces are there, but the movie does not let them breathe. What makes this disappointing is that the film has flashes of a better version of itself. The flashbacks with Kara's parents have real tragedy. The few moments between Kara and Clark suggest a fun, thorny sibling dynamic. Alcock's rough, guarded performance hints at a Supergirl who could become one of the most interesting characters in the DCU. Even Crypto gives Kara a vulnerable attachment that makes sense for someone who has lost almost everyone. But the movie never fully earns the emotion it reaches for. It wants to be about trauma, but it often settles for attitude. It wants to be about healing, but it spends too much time on busy detours. It wants to be cosmic and strange, but many of the alien visuals are more messy than imaginative. Because the pacing is uneven, the film can feel overloaded and strangely empty. That is a dangerous combination for a superhero movie. I do not think Milly Alcock is wrong for Supergirl. Actually, I think the opposite. She deserves another shot with sharper writing and a clearer emotional spine. If she appears again in Man of Tomorrow or another DC project, this version of Kara can still work. The character has the foundation: survivor, refugee, cousin, warrior, reluctant hero, and someone deciding whether pain will define her or fuel her. That is great material. This movie just does not shape it strongly enough. The larger question is what this says about the DCU. James Gunn's Superman gave DC a fresh start with color, sincerity, weirdness, and a beating heart. Supergirl should have expanded that world with a harder, stranger perspective. Instead, it feels like a movie trying to borrow the new DC tone without fully understanding why that tone worked. Style is easy to copy. Emotion is harder, so is Supergirl a total disaster? I would not go that far because Alcock has spark, Lobo is fun, and stronger scenes are hiding inside this one. But as a major chapter in the DCU, it is disappointing. Kara Zor-El deserved a film that felt as fierce, tragic, and unforgettable as she is. What we got is a messy cosmic road trip with strong ingredients and not enough magic holding them together. I want to know where you stand on this one. Did the punk rock version of Kara work for you, or did the movie waste Milly Alcock's potential?